what's going on, guys? Welcome to the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, coming to you guys on an overreaction Sunday following the Vikings' heartbreaking loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. And before we dive into everything, I must say, even though this was a regular season game that, it's not like the Vikings were competing for a bye in the playoffs or whatnot, or, competing for something that was a higher standard, I guess, or a higher prize. That was one of the more brutal losses I think I've ever experienced as a Minnesota Vikings fan. Just the overall way it went was just, it was heartbreaking, and I really couldn't get over it all day yesterday, but I collected my thoughts and just wanted to dive on here today and just chop it up. And the biggest thing we are going to talk about today has to be Kevin O'Connell, and he's going to kind of kickstart today's video because the overall talk amongst just Vikings media, Vikings fans on Twitter, everything I'm seeing is Kevin O'Connell should be on the hot seat, and I understand that. I kind of want to break this down from both sides because, listen, I think Kevin O'Connell, the culture he's instilled in Minnesota, I think it's been a very, positive, they focus on the process. Like, we hear them talk about that so much. But overall, I think the culture has been very positive. But the biggest negative with Kevin O'Connell, and as an offensive-minded guy who is calling the plays for the Vikings, his late-game fourth-quarter play calling. This season specifically, when the Vikings have been up 1 or 2 scores late in the fourth quarter, it just felt like Kevin O'Connell has just gotten so just conservative, but also just very obvious. Like, there was a stretch for 3 games. It was the Saints, Broncos, and Bears. Kevin O'Connell, literally when the Vikings had a 1-score lead in the fourth, almost every single drive started off as run, and then a pass. Whether it was a run to Tai Chandler, then maybe a Josh Dobbs quarterback run or whatever it may be. But it literally felt like 90% of the overall drives in the fourth quarter when they were up by 1 or 2 scores was a run, pass. And obviously that makes it so easy for the defense to obviously pin their ears back and really focus in on what you are trying to do. And, I am kind of torn on Kevin O'Connell. If I wanted to give my take, kind of what camp I stay in, because there are people out there who think he should be done. I think Kevin O'Connell, I think he's a good head coach. That's all I can call him right now. I don't think he's a bad head coach. I don't think you could have mustered out 7 wins this season with all the injuries that they had if they weren't a good head coach. I mean, the Vikings have started 4 different quarterbacks. They lost Jefferson for about 2.5 months this year. Injuries on the defense with Jordan Hicks, Davenport. I mean, a bunch of guys have been in and out of the lineup, and he still was able to get us to set 500. I understand. If you would have won that Bears game, you'd have won that Broncos game. You would have won the game yesterday. We're sitting here, and the Vikings are 10-4, and we're sitting pretty. That's not even including the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game back in Week 1 or the Philly game in Week 2, where I felt like we should have won those as well. So my camp and my stance on Kevin O'Connell, I don't think you can fire him. I just think that would be an awful message to the players, organization, just the fan base if you would let him go after this season. But I will say this. Entering next season, he will 100% be on the hot seat. Because let's just say the Vikings do bring back Kirk, and let's just say there is some struggle, going on there, whether it's the play calling, whether it's just the overall offense, there will be conversation next season if he does start off slow, because even last year, it felt like, even in times, his play calling in the second, or his play call, let's just take the Giants playoff wildcard game, for example. It was 3rd and 1. Vikings on the first drive of the game went right up and down the field, scored easy, and they're moving the ball well again. On 3rd and 1, he calls this fluky trick play where it's a throwback pass to Kirk Cousins, and I'm just like, what are you doing? Cool play design, but in that spot, second drive of the game, 3rd and 1, I really hated it. And even last game, or let's just take 2 examples from the Bengals game. I want to take the Justin Jefferson trick play. I thought it was a great play design. Honestly, a great play call. Wasn't executed well, but that's the advantage of having a guy like Kevin O'Connell. He can have those, kind of specialty plays where you can get free yards. I think he's very creative in that sense. But then we can take the Nick Mullens touchdown. It ended up in a touchdown. The Vikings had the ball on the 1-yard line. Tai Chandler was running absolutely mad, and he was going right up and down the field, and the Vikings decided to throw the ball and then got very lucky because Nick Mullens, that was a very risky throw, and just luckily Jordan Addison is a hell of a football player, and he's going to make a play. But even just situations like that where I'm really scratching my head, and then this is the final one. Brandon Powell. The Vikings on the tush push chose Brandon Powell to be the dude that pushes Nick Mullens. Nick Mullens is not the biggest quarterback. Why not use Josh Oliver? Why not use C.J. Ham? That's just understanding height and weight. Personnel. That's not anything to do with football. That's just using your mind. Hold on, let's think about this. We're we're going to have our smallest player on the offense push our quarterback in a little tush-push action. Just didn't make any sense to me. So I want to get you guys involved. Would you fire Kevin O'Connell? Give me a Y for yes or give me an M for no down in the comments section. I'm still probably saying no right now, but a seat is definitely getting warmer. We got more around Tai Chandler and Jaren Hall coming up here in a second, but I do want to first give a huge shout-out to today's sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. If you guys go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS, they're going to give you a first deposit match up to $100. What does that mean? If you put $100 in your account, they're going to match your first deposit up to $100 if you do use the promo code CLNS. It makes the boring games even more entertaining. It's daily fantasy made easy. All you got to do is pick 2 or more players, choose more or less on the projected stat types, start seeing the cash rolling today. Link for that in the comment section and description of today's show. Make sure you guys do check it out. So let's wrap up today's show. I want to first off give a huge shout out, some positive news here, Tai Chandler. And this is one of those moments for me where I'm like, you know what? You know a little bit of football. I've been calling for Tai Chandler since last year's preseason in his rookie year. I thought he looked more explosive than even a guy like Dalvin Cook at spots last season, and it just kind of bothered me heading into the season that it just felt like they just gave Alexander Mattison the nod just because he's been in the organization the longest. Instead of actually using your eyes, instead of actually, judging the play on the football field, I think it was just more of a merit thing where they gave it to Mattison. I get it. Madison, could you imagine this? And it's probably so frustrating for Tai Chandler. Let's just say you're at your job, and let's just say there's a promotion that you and this one guy both want to get. But let's just say you are way more talented than the other guy you're competing with, but they go with the other guy because he's been with the company or been with the organization longer. It would just drive you crazy because it's like actually judge us for the play on the field and our performance of work instead of just how long we've been there. But Tai Chandler ran crazy yesterday, over 150 all-purpose yards. Just really looked explosive. The amount of times he got wrapped up in the backfield, made a man miss, and got at least 3 yards. I just thought he was incredible, and it's just good to know that, maybe he's not the RB1 of the future, but he will be the RB1, I think, for the rest of the season, and maybe he could be the RB1 of the future. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but I do expect the Vikings to possibly make a move at the running back spot. They got to move off Madison. Madison's just not a good running back. He's just been only getting worse. I know he's ran okay in certain spots this year. Just overall, just hasn't been really too consistent. But I do want to wrap up the show talking about the quarterback kind of decision that I guess the Vikings are going to have to make. So I'll say this. I don't think Nick Mullens played bad at all yesterday. He had some costly turnovers, and he had some big-time misses. But in terms of just being a guy that can run the offense, get the guys in a position to succeed, I felt like he was pretty solid. Now, on the other side of things, Jaren Hall. What is the difference between talent level between Hall and Mullens? Probably very similar. Mullens obviously a lot more NFL experience, so I think he would be better right now. But let's just say Jaren Hall has this it factor. Let's just say he's got a Brock Purdy in him. Let's just say we got, whoever it may be, where it's like this is a very, very legit quarterback, and he could be a serviceable starter in the NFL. Let's find that out over the last 3 games. You got 3 division games, 2 against the Lions, 1 against the Packers. Let's go find out what Jaren Hall is about. Let's go find out if he can possibly be a quarterback for next season or a backup quarterback or whatever it may be, because we know what Nick Mullens is. He's a backup quarterback in the NFL. He can step in here and there, play some good football for you, but he's not going to be the reason you win any games. You just hope he's not the reason you lose games. So I would overall, I'm not firing Kevin O'Connell, but he is on the hot seat. Tai Chandler, no doubt, should be RB1 of the future moving forward, and I'd probably roll with Jaren Hall next week. I also do want to say thank you. We had over 160,000 viewers for our watch party yesterday, picked up over 1,600 subscribers. Just want to say thank you to all you guys who tuned in. Really does mean a lot. But thanks for watching today's show. Vikings, I'll tell you what, with the slate of games that just went on today, they still got a very good chance to make the playoffs, and just going to come down to it, man. It's going to come down to winning a couple games against some good teams down the stretch here. But I do want to say thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Patrick Siepman. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Vikings Now today. See you all next time. As always, Skol Vikes, baby.